Hi. Welcome everyone who are here with us today. Today, we are going to explore the topic of sustainable eating. Right. So, in the last year, we have all witnessed with COVID that one of the most integral part in our lives is food. Right. Food and water are very essential for any of us to survive. Okay, we might not do shopping, we might not have visit our friends or go to the malls or go to the theaters or go to work even, but something that we all must do to survive is to eat and drink, right? Food is such an essential part of our lifestyle. So today we are going to talk here about how can you turn this eating habit into sustainable. So Shane, could you please tell us that how can we eat sustainable eating? What exactly do you mean by sustainable eating habits?
Right. So sustainability and sustainable eating is some new buzzwords which have been generated a lot in these last couple of years. And basically, sustainable eating involves selecting foods which are basically healthy for our body and also the environment. So we're talking about food which are grown and processed in such a manner that they do not harm the environment or they should not compromise the environment's ability to meet the needs of our future generations. So this food basically also helps give us a balanced diet for our body and also plays a role in the conservation of the environment. Now, when we talk about sustainable food and sustainable eating, we're not only talking about the food itself, we're talking about the entire process. So, we're talking about how the food is produced, how it's distributed, how it's packaged, and even how it's consumed. So, both the producers, like the farmers, as well as the consumers, which are we, both play a role in this sustainable eating. So, from the side of the farmers, it basically means a commitment by them to avoid harmful chemicals, to protect the natural habitats and resources, to provide good quality of life for their livestock. Right? So, we're talking about them producing food without using these hazardous pesticides and chemicals. They should not use these non essential antibiotics or growth promotion supplements. We're talking about them growing food in such a way that the natural resources are not wasted and they're not damaged. And from our point, from the consumer's point of view, we have to buy food as directly as possible from these people who use the sustainable method and avoid food which is transported for hundreds of miles or which are produced in factories where a large amount of energy is used, and we should rather buy fresh and local produce.
Wow, that's very, very interesting. So now that I know what is sustainable eating, why should I do it? Like, what is the benefit that I have? What is the benefit that our listeners have here today? Right? Why is it so important for all of us to work towards eating sustainably, living sustainably? If you could please shed some light on that.
Sure, it's a very interesting question. So basically, we all know that we rely on our planet for all its resources, whether it's food, whether it's clothing, whether it's shelter, all the resources which we need, we get from the planet. And many of these resources can be replenished, right? So if you cut down a tree, we can always go and plant another tree in its place. We think that if we catch fish in the water, there'll be plenty of other fish. So if this is the case, then there should be no problem at all. There should be enough resources constantly available for all of us. So you can think of it as a bathtub, and one side you're draining the water, and one side you're replenishing or filling the bathtub. If both the rate at which it's being drained and the rate at which it's being filled is the same, then the water in the bathtub will be in an equilibrium state. It will be almost the same. It will be almost constant. But what the problem is happening is that we're draining this bathtub at a very high rate. And as a result of which, the water in the bathtub is depleting, and at one point, there'll be no water left. So, we're consuming our resources at such a high rate that nature does not have time to replenish these resources. As a result of this, we can see fisheries are disappearing, forests are disappearing, and because of all this, there are other effects like climate change, air pollution, and so on. Now, we all eat food and we all definitely need it to survive. But none of us realize that the food accounts for 25% of the greenhouse emissions which we release into the atmosphere. The food we eat also has an effect and an impact on the land and water system. So, about 70% of the water which is taken from freshwater lakes and rivers is used for agriculture. And this agriculture also causes about 60% of the deforestation. Now we eat food almost 3 times a day. So as a result, these choices that we make every day have a very big effect and a very big impact on the environment. And the good news behind all of this is that even the small changes in our diet can lead up to real big environmental benefits. We can reduce global warming emissions, we can help preserve our ocean resources, and so it is important for each and every one of us to make these changes and to eat sustainably.
All right. So basically, everything in nature is connected, right? If the
Right.
fish are going to die, the water is going to die. If we are using a lot of food, we need to do deforestation in order to uh, grow those crops. And then when we're growing those crops, we need a lot of water to grow them, right? So basically, everything is symbiotic in nature. Everything is connected in nature, right? And our actions then deeply affect these systems, these complex intricate ecosystems that are available. So now I know that if I eat sustainably, it will help the environment. But I would our viewers would like to know, what about what is it for us, right? How is it good for me to eat sustainably as an individual? If I am adopting this lifestyle, how does it benefit me and my health?
Right. So that's a very interesting question. So a lot of studies have been done on this type of diet, on these types of lifestyle, and most of these studies have constantly confirmed that when we adhere to this type of lifestyle, to this type of diet, there are many health benefits. Okay, there has been a reduction in the overall mortality rate, lesser incidences of cardiovascular diseases. It helps in boost metabolism. So all this is are the many benefits of following a sustainable diet. Now, the food from a nutritional point of view, which has higher, which is better for us, right, is the same food which has a lower negative impact on the environment. So they're both connected in the same way. The food which is healthier for us is also the one which has is having a less negative effect on the environment. Now, when we eat a sustainable diet, it also helps strengthen our immune system. So our body can fight common flus, infections, autoimmune diseases, and so on. It also helps keep our brain alert. We have higher energy levels, so we are more energetic, we are more productive, we can get more work done. Studies have also shown that the organic food, which is generally a major part of the sustainable diet, helps keep cancer away. So, cancer is one of the second most deadly diseases which we all fear, right? So, certain foods consist of the nutrients which help inhibit this cancer progression. So, these are watermelons, berries, tomatoes, basic, also green leafy vegetables, and all these are a part of the sustainable diet. So also they help in reducing our stress levels. So right now many of us have been feeling like a lot of stress because we are at home, because of this work from home, and we cannot get out in much. But these diets also help bring that down. So there are many antioxidants in these vegetables which help reduce the stress, reduce the inflammation, and make us feel much better.
Wow. Right. So basically, to sum it up, what is good for me is good for the environment, and what is good for the environment is good for me. Right. Again, it all
Perfect.
goes hand in hand. So before,
Right.
I believe you mentioned something about food coming from hundreds and hundreds and kilometers away. So could you please explain to our viewers what exactly did you mean? And there's this concept called food miles. If you could shed some more light on that.
Right. So, food miles is basically talking about the distance a food travels from the farm where it has been grown and to the place where it has been consumed, or basically the distance the food travels from the farm to our plate. Now, the reason this food mile concept was brought about was to highlight the fact that when we transport food over such large distances, there are many environmental and economic consequences, right? So the current means of transportation when food is traveled over such large distances, large amount of carbon dioxide gets emitted into the atmosphere. These emissions also have a significant impact on air quality and can also lead to global warming. So basically, the greater the distance the food travels, the more energy is used by the transportation, more amount of carbon dioxide and other gases are released, and the pollution levels go up. Now, an apple a day keeps the doctor away is a well known proverb which we have all heard, especially during our childhood and in school days. But this proverb no longer applies when we understand the distance that this apple has traveled to reach our plates. Like, do most of us know which apples are we buying? Are we buying local or are we buying imported apples? India imports large amount of apples from the United States, and when we import these apples are traveling over 12,000 kilometers to reach us. So 12,000 kilometers is a very large distance, and this is also leading to large amount of emissions. Even the potato, right? We all eat it. It's a very common part of our Indian diet, of our Indian cuisine. Do we know how much this food travels? The potato travels about 1,500 kilometers to reach us, right? That's also a very large distance. So the best way we can reduce this food miles is by eating local food, eating food that is grown locally, or we can even try to grow our own vegetables and our own fruits at home if possible.
Right. So could you, so that is very interesting. Basically, you are saying that each of our food travels from very far distances, and that itself
Right.
has a high emission due to the transportation industry, due to the freight industry, that is also adding to the air quality levels around us, right? So something so simple is like food, and that is also causing emissions through transportation. So, what is the importance of eating local food on the environment, on our health? Why should we eat local? If you could briefly elaborate on that point as well.
Right. So, as I mentioned earlier, when we import fruits and vegetables, they have large amount of food miles and a large effect on the environment. But that's not the only thing. Most of these foods which are imported are coated with wax or other preservatives in order to prevent them from shrinking. Some of them even get added these poisonous colors, so they look brighter and they look better than the local fruits and vegetables that we get. So when we eat local food, there are also many other benefits which are associated with it besides reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. We are helping in improving our carbon footprint. We're supporting the local economy. We're supporting the local farmers and the local producers. So when we import foods, sometimes we import foods like broccoli, apricots, peaches. They often lose their nutritious value. They lose their nutrients when they travel such large distances. And as a result, when we eat local food, we're eating nutritious food, which is higher in nutrients and it's better for our bodies.
Okay. So basically, we must eat local, eat what is growing around us, right? So it has higher nutritional levels. What about seasonal, right? So we know that it is the law of nature that certain fruits and vegetables grow in certain seasons. In summers we have the watermelons, and the winters we have the green leafy vegetables. But with the advent of industrial revolution and the advancement of technology, we get watermelons all through the year. We get vegetables like
Right.
jam, green leafy vegetables all through the year, right? But when we talk to our grandparents, they have mentioned that, and there was a time when only in this season these fruits and vegetables were grown. So, what is the importance of eating seasonally? How can you share some points with us on that as well?
So basically, when we eat food which are grown in that particular season, when we eat the seasonal produce, they generally also taste better, but they're also far fresher, because sometimes what happens is when we're eating a food which is not in season in our country or in our city, these foods are again being transported over long distances, right? So the basic concept of supply and demand will tell us how when we eat seasonal, we're saving money. So whenever it's a food which is produced in a particular season is obviously produced in more abundance. So as a result, when we go to the store, it's cheaper for us. But when we are producing foods which are not in that season, there's scarcity, and as a result, we end up paying more. Also, to get these foods, they're transported from other places. So the fuel charge, the transportation charge, all gets added. So we end up spending more money. But it's not only about the expenses in this matter. When we are importing food from other places, the large amount of carbon emissions, our carbon footprint goes up. Also, as you mentioned, when it comes to our grandparents talking about eating seasonal food, nature plans for perfection, right? The way the nature is, its cycle works best. So when we follow the nature cycle and we eat seasonal food, it's very easy to be healthy. Like you mentioned, watermelons. Watermelons are generally grown in the summer season, and we can get them right now even during the winter. But what happens when we consume this watermelon during the winter, right? So watermelon has cooling properties, and it has naturally high water content. So when we eat this during the winter season, we are prone to getting sick. We're prone to getting maybe a cold or a flu or some side of infection. So as a result, it's the best for us to eat them during the hot season when they're naturally supposed to grow. So thus it's best for us to follow nature's cycle and to eat things when they are in season.
Right. Wow, Shin, thank you very much. That so basically we must follow nature, abide by the law of nature, as we are also a part of nature. Another
Right.
aspect was the farmers. So farmers play a very important role in producing food, in getting our food from the farm to the table. Right, they are one of the most important aspects of this cycle. So how can we, the audience, support farmers to be more sustainable? Because we can have choices where we are eating sustainably, but how can we support the farmer community and help them, guide them to also shift towards the sustainability culture?
So if we can all start first by protecting the environment, right? If the environment is better, without a healthy natural environment, the native plants and the native crops won't grow. So it won't be possible for the farmers to make sustainable agriculture if we do not maintain the natural environment. So we need to do our bit to preserve the natural environment. Also, the thing is, every region has its own unique characteristics, has its own unique needs. Therefore, we need to do our bit in order to make sure that the farmers know about their area. If they know what type of soil there is, what needs to be added to it, what crops grow best, then they can shift to a sustainable method much easier. Also, we need to help promote teaching the methods, like the different techniques like agroforestry, organic agriculture, permaculture. All these are sustainable and practical methods which need to be taught. Once the farmers have access and knowledge about these techniques, I'm sure they too will shift to sustainable agriculture. Also, a simple thing which we can do is spread the word about sustainability, spread the word about eating healthy, right? It's very important for us to realize that if we spread this word, a ripple effect can be created, right? So if all of us start eating healthy, if all of us shift to sustainable food, I'm sure the entire market will change as well. And everyone will have to grow food sustainably. The entire food production will shift to more sustainable operations. So all these small changes by us can create a large effect, and it can help everyone.
Right. So a simple step as just like by sharing this video, sharing these tips that you might have learned today with us, sharing this page, liking Green Yatra, you will make an impact, right? We would like all our viewers to share this video, debate about these topics, discuss them with your friends and family, so that even if you are not able to implement in your lives, maybe when you pass on this advice, somebody else will, and that ripple effect will create a huge impact. Another very important aspect of food is food waste, right? I'm sure all of us here watching today are guilty of wasting food at least once in our lifetime, right? No matter how much we avoid wasting food, there are the times where we end up, you know, dumping more food than we can actually feed and fill our stomachs. So, what are the consequences of this small action, right? if if our users, if I as an individual said, okay, my first step would be to completely stop food waste, how is it going to impact the environment, and how, what are the consequences of this food waste?
Right. So most of us don't even realize that after we waste our food, what happens to this food, right? So most of this food basically goes to these landfills, and we don't realize that 34% of the methane, right? So methane is a very poisonous greenhouse gas. 34% of the methane is produced from rotting food. In our country, 40% of the food is lost or wasted in transit as well, right? So there's a lot of wastage which is happening even unknowingly in our own country because of bad roads, electricity, even because of lack of cold storages or proper facilities. All this is happening. So more than one third of our food that we produce in our country is going to waste because of inappropriate measures, because of inappropriate packages. Now, what we need to understand is the later the food product is lost along the chain, the greater are the consequences. So, the more amount of energy is gone into growing the food, into packaging the food, into transporting the food. So, we're wasting all that amount of energy which is gone. So, our carbon footprint, our environmental consequences are very high. So, we need to like make sure that we don't waste food. Put a list of perishables outside your fridge so you realize what, and you can plan your food meals. There are plenty of kitchen sink recipes or shows on Netflix which show you how you can incorporate the leftovers into a delicious meal for today. So those are simple things we need to do and stop wasting food.
Right. Okay. Wow. So, lastly, Shane, I would like you one final question we would like our viewers to know is, in our daily lives, right, as individuals, sitting at home, working, college students, school students, how can each and every individual in their daily lives take one step or two steps or 10 steps towards a sustainable lifestyle in terms of my eating or habits?
Right. So we can all start first by reducing the amount of meat, fish, and dairy because animal agriculture is an industry which has one of the largest carbon footprints. So we don't need to go full vegan or suddenly shift our entire diet to only eat veggies, but we can start reducing the portions because a large amount of carbon, a large amount of the greenhouse gases get emitted when we eat more meats in our diet. So we can start simply by reducing the amount of meat and dairy in our diet. As I mentioned earlier, we can start shifting and eating more foods which are seasonal. So seasonal foods are generally not artificially ripened, and they're generally grown in our particular areas and they don't come from overseas. So it's those are healthier for us as well as for the environment. Likewise, also go and pick up local food, right? Local food has lesser miles, so its carbon footprint is lesser and it's better for us. If possible, use start growing your own fruits and vegetables, whether it's in your garden, whether you can have, some people have rooftop gardens nowadays where you just grow small fruits and vegetables. Start reducing the amount of food waste. Like I said, large amount of emissions come when our food goes to these landfills. So we need to cut that down. Once now we have understood the amount of effort, the amount of energy that has gone into producing this food, we need to do our best in order to reduce our wastage. If there is food waste, we can try composting it. So because that's better for the environment as well. Go to more organic and farmers markets where the different produce is available. Stop buying processed foods, because in the processed foods is large amount of preservatives, which is bad for our bodies. But start picking up more organic food. It's healthier, and it's much better for the environment. Eat more amount of plants. Fruits and vegetables have large amount of nutrients, and they have a much lower environmental impact. Buy items that are like do not have much of packaging. So sometimes we don't realize, we pick up these items which have a lot of packaging, and then we just throw it out when we come home, right? Try asking the person if there's another way we can take that item home with us. Start reducing the amount of junk food we consume, because that as well is very unhealthy for the environment and also our bodies. Also, simple things like when we are cooking our food, try using equipment like ovens which consume less energy. Like when we consume large amount of electricity, we're also giving out large amount of carbon emissions. So try making these small changes. I'm pretty sure nothing is so complicated or so complex that we can't use. So by doing this, we can definitely make a better tomorrow and a better sustainable future.
Wow, Shane. These points are really, really interesting and valid, and I'm sure a lot of the mothers watching this would be very happy where you're telling not to eat junk food and less preservatives and all of that. Right. So eating healthy is not only good for you, for your body, and but also for the environment and the future people that are going. Another pro tip that I would like to share is that we must be wary of the green certifications, right? A
Right.
lot of people are sharing organic, and you have to look out for valid labels, valid certifications, and some markets may be using it as brainwashing. So, as consumers, we must be very wary of authentication of that particular company, and is it actually valid, where are they getting it from, do they have valid government certifications to prove the same, and all. Thank you, Shane, for this amazing lecture and these wonderful tips. I hope our audience has learned something today. You can please ask any questions or you can leave any comments. We would be happy to get back to you. Please like, share, and follow us this video, and we will get back to you in the next session of Sustainable Saturdays. Thank you very much.